Paige, here's our lesson for Monday, July 21st. We'll jump right into it and see our face-on view and take a look at our initial swing or the before swing. For today, we got our usual lines here, one down the outside of the right leg, one up the left foot there to the left shoulder, and then we'll draw a head right there off your left ear, kind of to monitor head movement. And let's take a look. You know, we've been working on this idea of staying centered, feeling a little more left when we go to the top of the backswing, and we'll just kind of click this in motion and see where we are. And so we kind of go a little bit back to what we would normally do, which is a little more comfortable for us, and we'll see a few things. With the yellow line here, you know, we can see that we've shifted pretty significantly outside this right line here, and then in doing that, we really move away from the left line, and then our head even moved away from that line that we're using to monitor our head. So as a result, we get a little bit more rightward sway away from the target rather than this good compact turn of the hips where we want to turn that right hip directly behind us and stay more left so we can stay a little more centered. And then if we take the video forward, you know, we have to do a lot of work to kind of regain our balance and get moving back to the left. And once we do that and have to kind of reestablish our positions, we can see here we are right at impact, and you notice how the left side over here, even though we shifted our lower body to the left, we had gotten so far to the right that we just really weren't able to make as aggressive and complete a transition into the left side as we want to. And so what we know from that is that typically if the right hip sways to the right away from the target like that, we don't create that space. You know, we don't vacate space for the hands to pass through, so the hands can't get deep enough to the inside. It just makes it a little bit more difficult for us to swing down from the inside. And we'll kind of see here that we take the lines away. We can just kind of see here that at this point the hips are kind of square to the target, the ball target line, and the shoulders have opened up, and you're trying to keep them closed, but they're all kind of squared up too. So the hips and shoulders are kind of turning at the same rate, and the lower body's not leading, and so that's kind of a not as efficient and good, for lack of a better way to put it, a move as we have been able to put on the ball. So if we went with that idea of kind of turning in the barrel, where we wouldn't want to slide and shift outside of the barrel on the takeaway, so we kind of get to where we're sliding and bumping into the side of the barrel on the right side, and then, you know, then the other idea is that on the downswing, we want to blast through the barrel and just kind of destroy it here in the downswing. So, you know, just kind of that sway to the right doesn't really allow us to do what we're trying to do. And so, you know, we worked on that real quick because it's something we've been working on for a couple of weeks. And so we worked on that real quick and cleaned it up real nice, as we'll see here in a minute. So we'll take a look at this video, and this is just really night and day in how we get to the top here, really staying centered, you know, in turning that right hip immediately back. You know, we vacate this area here that the right hip occupied, and the hands are able to kind of pass through that space and work to the inside. And, you know, here's the space we're talking about over here. Like you said, you can see the post and the fence behind you there. And then as a result, when we turn, then the right hip, or the left hip rather, can kind of cover this space over here, and that's perfectly okay. And then we see that the head, you know, if we're monitoring the head just stayed right in place there with the yellow line. So very good job there. That looks like that's something that, even though it might not be something that sticks with us all week, when we come back to it in the next lesson, it's really easy to clean up and to correct. And so from here, we've turned in the barrel, and now we just want to blast through the barrel and you get this good hip drive. You can see how much of your left side has driven through that line that's on the left. You know, the head goes forward a little bit, but it's staying back in relation to, you know, how the lower body is moving. And so that's going to allow us to get down on top of the golf ball. You know, this area here where the collarbones come together, you know, if we draw a line straight down in front of that, you know, that's nicely in front of the ball here. And it just has to be in order for us to be able to just kind of naturally and effortlessly get the club to come down onto the golf ball without making such a conscious action to chop and hit down on the ball. But that's just really terrific, and you know, you can just really play some good golf from there. And you can just see how we're posted up on the left leg over here. You just kind of get this whole look here, which just looks a lot more athletic. As you said, there's a lot more speed there. You can feel that speed in the swing, and your body, when it's in this position at that point in the swing of impact, you're just in a much better position to support that speed and keep your balance and be able to stabilize the club face and hit good shots. So we definitely wanted to stay centered, you know, turn in the barrel on the backswing, and then really shift and drive that lower body to the left towards the target in the downswing, and, you know, blast through the barrel. And this swing is going to come from the check swing drill we did, where we'll go ahead and take the club to the top, and then we'll kind of swing it down to a position where the club is parallel to the ground, and then kind of hold right there. And then you can look back and check and make sure that that club is to the inside of your hands, or your side of the ball target line. And then you can kind of go back to the top, you know, and pump that down again, and just get a feel for that. And then when you actually make a swing, you can just kind of feel like you're passing through that position where you've got that club that's still to the inside. The shaft is inside the hands if we look from the down the line view, kind of what we were talking about. And so when you made this swing, this is the most dynamic golf swing that I've seen you make so far. You know, we didn't hit the ball particularly well on this swing, but this is just a really good, strong, athletic, and dynamic swing with the lower body leading, and a lot of speed here. And then our body's able to just kind of chase right after that with the swing there. And that was just really, that swing is just really the result of kind of working on that check swing, you know, making that live action check swing where we really intend to hit the ball, and then there at the last minute, bam, we just stop it, and we've driven that left hip. We've kept the shoulders turned, you know, away from the target, so that the hands and the club can kind of drop down from the inside, but we've driven that lower body and that hip driving towards the target. And again, when you did this, you know, in real time, so to speak, and you hit this ball, but after doing the pump drill, the check swing drill just gave you some real good dynamics to kind of power through that golf ball there. So this is Charlie Wee. He plays on the PGA Tour, and he's a really good model. He's consistently among the top ball strikers in greens and regulation, fairways hit, and that type of thing. He doesn't putt real well, so he doesn't win a lot, but from a just pure ball striking perspective, he's a really good model for us to look at. And we take a look, kind of going backwards, we can see the club shaft here, and as we click it down, you'll see he's kind of passing through that position that we're kind of talking about, where the club is kind of laying down here behind him, right up the right forearm here. And then if we click forward a couple of times, right where the club is pretty much parallel to the ground, it's kind of hard to see, but I'm going to draw a circle around the club head, which is right there. And then you can see his hands with the yellow circle kind of out over here. So that's consistent with what we're talking about, where at that point in the downswing, we want the club head, if you look at it from here, we want the club head to be inside or to the player's side of the hands. For us, we're really trying to exaggerate this. I can use a line, and you can kind of see the shaft coming back right there to the club head. But for us, we're trying to exaggerate this and feel like the club uh, is, further inside than that even. If we get it kind of feeling a little bit like this, or where there, that's fine. And, the more that we can exaggerate, the better. Because our tendency is, for us, our tendency at this point in the swing is to kind of have the club shaft a little more out here on the ball side of the hands, if you will. And that just makes it, pretty much impossible to get the club to track from the inside. So if we click forward, we can put, we can essentially just draw a line down from Charlie Wee's club face to the ball. And if we click forward, his club is just going to really travel down that line. And I'm going to take the line away. And even at this point, here's the golf ball right here, and then the club is here inside the golf ball. So the club is traveling down, but its path is kind of going out in this direction. We'll see the club contact the golf ball. And so again, since we're swinging the club on a tilted circle, it is swinging in an arc around us. So it doesn't take long until the club actually starts to move back to the left. But there's nothing that we want to do to try to make it swing back to the left. If we can keep it swinging to the right, and this is the sensation that he's having, the club is swinging to the right as far as he's concerned here. See how long the club here has stayed behind his hands. His hands are starting to disappear from in front of his belt line, but the club and the club shaft are still out here in front of him to where we can see it. So that just means that everything else has led, and the club head and the shaft are kind of behind his hands, and that's what we were talking about a little bit. Even now, take the lines away, his hands are not visible anymore, but the club is still visible out here to the right. And so, again, because we're swinging on an arc around ourselves, things will move back to the left, but we want to continually try to make them move to the right. And as long as we're feeling that, then we'll get the desired result. If we're making an effort consciously or subconsciously or otherwise to turn or pull or move anything to the left of us, then the club doesn't travel in a path that it should, and we don't get the ball flight that we want. And I've always thought that this is a really good example. This is Jack Nicklaus from overhead and kind of behind him. And we'll watch the club swing away from the ball. And you can see the club fairly immediately starts to work to the inside. His hands are working to the inside. And boy, his head stays right on top of the ball there. Let me tell you, he was one of the best ever at staying centered over the ball. In fact, his teacher, when he was a little boy, would have an assistant hold Jack's hair, and while Jack swung, made swings. And obviously, if Jack's head moved, kind of hurt. So his head doesn't move in the swing. Now he's going to shift forward, and his head might go a little bit forward here, but he's really driving aggressively. And now those hands are going to come from the inside, and we'll see right here, you can see the club shaft. This is exactly what we were talking about. Here's the golf ball right here, and here's the club shaft at a point where it's just about parallel to the ground. Here's the club shaft right here. And in the next frame, now the club shaft is not parallel to the ground, where the head of the club is a little closer to the ground. And so now you know, the club is starting to move out towards the golf ball. And now the club is about right here behind the ball. And he'll hit it. And now it's about right down here. And it's releasing. Nicholas released it a little bit more than Charlie Wee did, or Charlie Wee does now, so he has a little bit different look, but the club head and the shaft are still staying pretty well behind everything. In other words, they're coming around last. And there's Jack just swinging to the finish. And he's done. But same thing there for him. Really the idea is that we're going to turn in this barrel. And then just drive to the left. In fact, if I go there and go back to the top of the swing, I'll draw a line about right here that kind of shows his hip line. And we go to the top of the swing, and he stays pretty nicely on that line. But when we go to swing down, Jack's just going to blow through that line. And he's swinging from the inside for power. And now he's pretty much right over here in how far he's moved forward. But if we were to draw a circle around his head, it'll move some because it's an athletic motion, the golf swing. And so we want to be as steady with our head as we can. And he moved forward a little bit. But all things considered, it stays pretty well in place throughout the golf swing. So keep working on turning in a barrel, and then when it's time to make the downswing, just blast through that barrel and break those boards. Get down there and rip that ball, hit it from the inside, and hit that draw we talked about. We'll see you on Friday.